Hello, everyone. We're live.
Welcome to Technically Managing. This is the podcast where we're technically managing as product managers and technically managing in our life.
Yep.
I'm Zachary Telke.
And
This
I'm
is
Ramu Murakami. Sorry.
no, we've never coordinated that. Like
We never do.
we need to actually get a routine down for that. I think we're finally starting to get our intro more succinct, but we need to know do I pass it to you? Do I say your name?
Right. That is true.
We'll
It's
figure it out.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Did you want to say your name again? I think I cut you off.
Oh, no. I was just introducing myself.
Yeah. Okay. So welcome to the podcast, everyone. So yeah, what's been new, Ramu?
New. Okay. So I watched Barbie, the Barbie movie last night.
I saw it too. What are your
Yes.
thoughts?
Honestly, I loved it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I loved it so freaking much. Um, so I don't know how it is in Austin, but in Miami, people are super dressing up to go to watch the Barbie movie. Like everyone is dressing up in pink and everything. And guess what I did? Like, guess how I went to the movies last night?
Not in pink, I'm guessing.
No, I went in sweatpants with a hoodie, like super basically I'm at home type of thing because that's how I like going to the movies, right?
Yeah, you want to be comfy. That's like your
Yeah.
that's like your sweatpants environment. Like you're not in the bar, you're not in the
Exactly.
club. Like I'm just here to enjoy myself, kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's a Wednesday night, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go comfortable, and I don't want to feel cold and all that stuff, so whatever. And as I'm going in, I see this girl, she's wearing super shorts, jeans, and she's wearing this pink super pretty heels. Like, I mean, she was she looked really pretty, but I was like, wow. Immediately felt like I was underdressed.
Did you feel because sometimes I'm in environments where I'm underdressed and everyone
Yeah.
else is dressed up. There are
Yeah.
times where I feel out of place for being underdressed, and there are
Yeah.
times where I feel empowered that I am, almost like it's a status symbol that's I don't have to try right now, and
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable because of it. Like,
I
were you regretting it, or did you nah, I still like the comfy vibe?
I mean, I've been in those situations where I'm very underdressed and I'm like, oh, I should leave and come back dressed. Especially, okay, like for example, I don't know if you've seen these videos of there's two types of girls at the gym. And it's like the girls that are really cute, they have their sets together, everything is matching. And then the girls that just wear a sleeping shirt and leggings and stuff like that, that's me.
Hmm.
And I've owned it, so I'm fine with that. But sometimes you do feel uncomfortable a little bit. But yesterday I went on Wednesday because I didn't want a lot of people in the movie theater, and basically I wasn't expecting people to be dressed up neither. So at that time I was like, wow, maybe this is a thing every day of the week to go see Barbie. So I did feel underdressed a little bit. But I don't regret it because I was not cold and I was very comfortable. So I don't regret it.
Nice. Yeah.
But I did love the movie. What did you think about it? No, do not tell me you did not like it.
I hated it. And I'll just leave.
No.
I don't even want to talk about why because I don't want the angry mobs after me. There's already a meme where it's if your boyfriend hates Barbie, dump him. I'm not, I'll just
I'm
leave it as
done.
I seriously disliked it and just leave it there. It was
So
not
what
made
about
for me. So
Montana?
what?
What about Montana? You watched it with her?
Yeah, Montana and I went, I think it was last Friday. We went to the Alamo Draft House, which is a really cool movie theater chain in Austin. But she
Mhm.
liked it. She didn't love it, but she did think it was fun. Um the set design is beautiful for it
Yeah.
though. They did such a good job with that. That was really cool.
Yeah, I thought I was going to hate it because of all the promotion they did, when they hype up a movie that much. I mean, of course you didn't like it, but I felt like they hyped it a lot and then I was like, okay, maybe it's not gonna be that good, but I liked it. And it was funny. It made me laugh a lot. So
There were some funny moments of it. I'll give it that. I'll give it the credit where I can do it, like where I can. I'm not I refuse to throw myself into that conversation, but I'll
Yeah,
say the
yeah,
nice
yeah.
things
No.
I can.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did that yesterday, and overall at work, I've been working on Cloud World stuff, of course, still. We put a lot of work into this, so people, I hope you really enjoy it if you get to go to Cloud World or if you sign up for any of the digital content. I was telling Zach that I just recorded my Cloud World digital session, so I hope you guys see it and have fun with it. Um, we made it like very visual, and I think it's like for everyone to understand. So I liked working on it. It was a lot of work, but I liked working on it. And I actually started doing something really fun this week that was making interface designs in Figma. Have you heard of Figma?
Yeah, it's like a mock-up tool, right?
Yeah, yeah. So I started doing a couple of mock-ups. I have a lot to learn, but it's super cool and I actually enjoy that a lot. So
Mock-ups are fun. I love that kind of stuff. Like it's just
yeah,
that is nice about our job that we can just kind of like hit different brain areas.
exactly. Like
Mhm.
I was watching a video that spoke about what product management is about, and I think they named data, design, and two other things that I forgot. Maybe I'll remember. But but definitely I think design is one of the fun parts of product management, being able to come up with different like workflows that work for other people and make basically everyone's life easier when you're like using our product. So it's fun.
Wait, so how do the digital sessions work? Like, do you know what people have to do to be able to like view your content? Is that something that's just like live streamed when Cloud World's going on, or like you find it on like a website somewhere just like surrounding Cloud World season?
So I'm not very familiar with it, but I think whenever you sign up for Cloud World, you get access to like a portal or something where you see like the schedule, all of like the sessions that they're gonna be at Cloud World, and you also get digital content. So I think you are able to access it through like the portal or an application. So yeah, it will be there throughout the whole time, basically. It's
Okay,
not like a
nice.
live thing. They don't play it live.
Yeah. That'll be nice to see though. Yeah, for people
Yeah.
who are at Cloud World, I'll be there. I have two workshops and one presentation. So the presentation will just be like a SQL scale 101 like introduction to it kind of thing. SQL scale is our command line interface for working with the Oracle database. And then I'll have two workshops around the Liquibase feature in SQL CL, which, as I've mentioned like on the podcast before, that's for like automating your database objects and also your application and REST API deployment. So it'll be fun. I had my SQL CL Liquibase webinar the other week. We had like pretty good turnout for that. We had like 160 or 180 people
A
show
lot of
up.
people.
And then like the video, we had the whole session recorded and the video's on YouTube. Um, we
We
could
should link
probably,
it.
yeah, we should link that in the description of this. It's like been out less than a week, that video, and it's already like up to 400 views. So people
Wow.
really liked the session. It was my first time doing something like that. So I was like nervous about it, but it was like great to see. That's like the thing that's kind of funny about our job is you spend like so much time just like tunneled in by yourself, just working on your like content and stuff. That
Mhm.
when like you finally produce the thing, you're like, I have no idea if this is good or bad just because I've been staring at it so long,
Yes.
and you have like all your own worries and doubts. So just to see like all that positive reception about it was like really cool. And just hey, like it's not just like my like team telling me like you're doing a good job. Like, oh, it's like people who don't
Exactly.
have a vested interest in me are just like, that was really nice. So that made me excited. I have another webinar. I need to check. Let me check the date right now because uh yeah, I am. That'd be a good thing to shout out too. It's at the end of August. I'll basically be doing a webinar on my SQL CL content leading up to Cloud World. So if you're not able to go to Cloud World, this would be really cool to check out. Yeah, we can link it in the description. On the 24th of August, I'll be having my second webinar just on like the whole SQL CL tool in general.
Okay. So do you have any tips or like something that you want to share about how you make your presentations more interactive or more, interesting?
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
try to make your presentations more interactive or more interesting?
No, so I feel like this is something that I find a really interesting topic because
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have like a couple different brains in my head. And I think it's like because like I started out in finance, I went into solution engineering, which is like under the sales org, and now I'm in product management. Where like when I'm working on these like workshops and presentations, I'm trying to kind of balance different things where the first and foremost is like the technical aspect, like the walking through steps have to be solid. Like that's just kind of the no matter what that needs to be done kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But like since being in the sales org, I've like been trying to focus around how to be more like value oriented in your messaging because even like having that solution engineering background kind of being more in the technical product side of things now, I feel like it's very easy to get like lost in your own details where
Mm-hmm.
like you can see the importance in everything and how everything connects and on like such a deep level that when you're trying to like build presentations and workshops for it, it's kind of hard to get out of that mode of level of detail to just like that first time taking a look at something perspective again.
Yep.
So like just I'll use my SQL CL Liquibase 101 workshop that's live on Live Labs called Take Control of Your Database with Automated Schema Changes. So like for that one, there was a couple like different components to it where I wanted the workshop to be built in a way where if you are a beginner, you'll understand everything in it. But if you're an experienced, like let's just say like database administrator, um, or just like someone who's technically savvy, that you won't like roll your eyes at like quote unquote the simplicity of it. And like
Right.
one of the principles I use with that is like I want everything, all the concepts I introduce in my presentations and workshops as much as I can possibly do to start with the concepts and from like a ground zero perspective, where if I use a term, I'm going to define it at some point, whether it's in the introduction and not just assume you know it. Because like when I started in solution engineering, I did like a bunch of these live lab workshops, like help get myself just up to date on the tech. And like one of the things I remember that I like never like in the moment when I was just new in solution engineering, I noticed that I wanted to make sure I remembered this when I got more technically savvy and like deeper in my career, which was like just how frustrating it was to run into acronyms and concepts that weren't defined in the material that you were learning from. Cause like I'd have to have like 10 tabs open, being like, okay, what
Yeah.
does this mean? Now, what does this mean in this? And
It was
it
a
was, yeah, it was just like you had to go so deep down the rabbit hole. And like I think one of the things that being a product manager has like kind of taught me and just being able to kind of like synchronize those like different perspectives of my work experience past is like only half of our job is actually understanding the technology. Like the other half is like knowing how to most easily like feed it to people. So like it doesn't have to be like these huge paragraph long things, but just like if you're going to mention a term, define it in like two sentences when you first bring it up, and then you don't have to do it
and I
again.
continue, yeah.
Yeah. So there was like just getting the technology set up, making sure that anyone looking at it, regardless of their like experience within reason, could just learn with the building blocks you give them. And also, I would say like getting the storytelling down because
Mhm.
just like looking at marketing and educational stuff for other industries where, like, let's just say the source material is a bit simpler, there's such an emphasis on storytelling because, like, that's what gets stuff to stick with people. Where if you can tell someone like a page of information and it might just go over their head, but if you just put it in like a story and narrative and organize it in a way that just like our brains are better at consuming as people, you can just make so much more get absorbed. But I feel like a lot of the times being in tech,
Mhm.
there's so accuracy is such a hard thing to accomplish because like you could just say one word wrong and it means something entirely different than what you're trying to communicate. That's honestly probably like one of the hardest things about public speaking in tech is you're
Yes.
always second guessing yourself and you always have to like just pause, be like, did I phrase that properly? Did I make
Mhm.
sure I communicate it? Because the difference between like one word here can mean like drastically different things. But because like we spend so much effort and resources on like the accuracy itself, because like that's kind of like there's no conversation that needs to be right. It feels like we're almost kind of exhausted sometimes when it comes to like the how we package things. So that's something that like I try, and I'm going to get better at it with time, but like I want to make sure I don't forget just basic marketing principles I've learned in basic like delivery, where like even with my SQL CL liquid based workshop, I put it through this like movie stream story where you're a new developer at this company, you're trying to get your development environment set up. That includes getting your database and everything in order so you have the data objects you're going to be working with. Like by fitting it in this narrative, I'm trying to make it more relatable, even if it is this like hypothetical situation, because like the more that we just put things in terms of like easy to understand, like relatable experiences, the better. It's like, yeah, that's kind of just my thoughts around like my process around it. It's like almost, it's like juggling different things. It's like juggling being original creative,
Mhm.
juggling just the technical content accuracy. And it's also just like juggling the value statements. Like, okay, this is what the technology does, but like think about how hard it is sometimes to like know everything about the tech and then give the elevator pitch on the value statements. If it's hard for you, someone learning this the first time
It's way
is
hard.
also going to have a really difficult time thinking about the value. So if you just start from like the hey, here's the value, this is why you should care about it, like let's just say SQL CL liquid base, it's going to help you save time, be a lot more efficient, and you don't have to worry about making as many manual errors. Once you start with like say those 3 points, you have people's attention and they're interested, where it's like, okay, I could use more time and my resources already stretched thin, like tell me about it, versus just say going, hey, here's this technology that does X, Y, and Z, and you have to like use your brain yourself and think about like, but okay, but like what, how will this help me reach whatever end goal? Because I mean, like one of the things that being like a tech worker is we're naturally very curious about technology, but we do have to remember that at the end of the day, we're making products for businesses that's supposed to like increase their effectiveness. And our job is to tell them like, hey, here's the value, not going, here's the manual, figure it out yourself kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. We always have to tie it down to a business problem, right? We're solving business problems. And we also, I feel like a lot of the times that I'm working on something, whether it's, I don't know, documentation for people or a presentation or a live lab or a video, I always think about who's going to be the person watching this. Like who are my audience, right? Because sometimes, okay, so I feel like I'm better at simplifying everything and I'm more of a visual person, right? Because I don't have like, of course, I'm learning how to get that technical background, but I'm not as technical as other people in my team, of course, right?
Mhm.
And I know that's kind of like my strength, being able to explain things to people with that are not like that technical. But sometimes it's just inevitable to be very technical and go in depth, right? but you also have to understand who you're talking to, because if you're talking to someone that's not as technical, you're going to lose them right away when you start giving them like crazy terminology, going too in depth with like the technology, right? So I definitely always start by focusing on who the person that's going to be watching my content or, you know, reading my content is. And definitely, I think storytelling is like super important because people connect with you through that story, or they might even leave your presentation saying, "Oh, I understand what this is," just because, you know, you can use it in XYZ, and that's like the story that you told them. So that's like super powerful. And I feel like another thing that I really, really like in presentations is when, for example, right now, we have like the free developer release, right? The 23C free developer release.
Mhm.
And we're basically creating graphs using SQL, right? But before we used to use PGQL, right? That is property graph query language, right? And I like to see like the before and after, right? To see how things have changed. And sometimes we just tend to just show what's happening right now and not what how it looked before, right? So like I like having those two comparisons in the screen. So that also brings in like the value, you know. But yeah, those are like my tips and tricks for presentations.
Yeah. Well, it is hard too because there have been times when I'm trying, like I'm just like thinking about the fact like, okay, I've got to hit this thing from like all these different angles, the technical, the creative, the storytelling, the value.
Mhm.
But like we physically can't do it all at the same time, like which is why it's kind of cool of our projects. Like it has to be layered. Like you have to do one layer at a time. Like because if you try to mix it all together, like it's overload for your brain. It's like left brain versus right brain activation. It's interesting though. Like I'm curious to see how we just continue to get better at that stuff and just
Exactly.
even yeah, like I'm trying to go on, or I'm not trying, I am going on vacation next week. So I'm
Mhm.
trying to get like all my stuff done before. And like a lot of cloud world deadlines and stuff is coming up that I need to take care of. And just even though like time management, stress, just being able to juggle different things is something that we've like talked about a lot on this podcast.
Mhm.
It's still one of those things that like just because we talk about it like doesn't mean it's just like, oh, we've given our thoughts and tips on it and
And
like
that's
now
it.
we can just yeah, and like that's it, like we figured it out, like we have the secret formula. Like no, it's like
Yeah.
reinforcing these things that talking about it helps, but like as like an active learning kind of thing. Like
Mhm.
for example, I moved into my new apartment with Montana, my girlfriend, about a month ago now, and we did like the technically managing episode where we were talking about like finances and all that stuff
Mhm.
and just like good saving money and like investment principles and all it. And like even despite that, it's still something that like kind of like with time management, everything else in work, I have to like still actively work on. And like
Right.
Montana and I were just like talking and we're like, hey, we're finally getting settled and can like start to breathe in our new apartments. We've
Mhm.
just had a bunch of like craziness going on. We had to buy furniture for the apartments, like moving's an expensive process. We
Mhm.
need to like our relationship is getting more mature and we're getting more settled. We need to start having these conversations about like budgeting and being better about this stuff. It's like even things that we know in theory and principle, like you still have to like actively work on it. Like for example, like one of the things that we've been doing and we were like working on last weekend is our life has been like way too chaotic. We've had too much going on. And it feels like we've been making like too many impulsive decisions just based off of not having enough time and being like highly stressed in both of our jobs because Montana just like started at Apple and I'm working on all the cloud world stuff. So like we literally sat down last weekend. We're like, okay, like let's work on a budget plan for our future now that we're like in a house together, like or apartment together. Like this is a big milestone for our relationship. like one of the things that we're doing is we're doing like 2 date nights a month so we can kind of keep our going out expenses under control. Like we're
Yep.
doing one nice date night that we plan like once a month where we go out, and the other one's like a swing by the grocery store on our way home from Friday night, get like a bottle of wine and maybe splurge a little bit on some cheese and do like a stay at home date night.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
yeah. So like that's kind of like been where my brain's been on the personal life side of just things that I know and I've been thinking about, but like I'm still trying to just hammer in the application of it.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally understand because I feel like it's still a struggle. Like whenever you're, struggling with time management, like you have a lot of deadlines and stuff like that, like you might not have time to cook, for example. So you might
Mhm.
just want to like order something to eat, and everything is so expensive. Like ordering food, delivery food is really expensive. Sometimes going out is really expensive. So you just end up getting into this habit that then you have to like stop yourself and be like, okay, we need to look at our finances. And it's awesome that you guys talk about money and all that stuff, because I do think that's such an important part of our relationship, especially because you guys are living together, right?
Mhm.
But you'll be surprised of how many people don't talk to their partner about money and stuff. So
Yeah.
that's really good. I mean, I talk to my boyfriend about money all the time. We both
We're
talk
both,
about
that's
money.
something that we're both good about, I feel like,
Yeah,
where even if we say like get Uber Eats too much and we maybe
yeah.
don't make the best financial situations at time, like
Hmm.
the fact that's like we're having that conversation of our
Exactly.
partner so we kind of just like watch each other.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's like super helpful. Yeah, because the Uber Eats is, oh my God, when you're moving and there's boxes everywhere, that's like that's been just hurting my soul, the amount of Uber Eats, because work's been
Hmm.
super busy. I get out of work to like an apartment full of boxes. Luckily, there's only a couple boxes left now,
Hmm.
but when you're just exhausted and overwhelmed and you have to put stuff away, the last thing you want to like think about is cooking something
Yeah,
in your like
cooking.
half put together kitchen. So we've been so bad on ordering the food. I'm like, enough is enough. We need to like start getting
Exactly.
everything taken care of.
Yeah, like I don't know if I told you that I used to order my groceries too from
Hmm.
Instacart. And then one time I went to Costco. Costco is like right next to my house. So like I should have, walked to Costco every time. But I checked the prices of Costco, and I think I was looking at the eggs, and I think they were like $2 or $3 more expensive. And that's with every item.
They
So
do you
that's how
dirty of
it
that.
makes
That's how they
sense.
make their money. They'll mark
Right.
it up on the apps and stuff for the delivery. And you're just like, oh, this thing is this much. Like, you don't remember how much a steak
Like,
costs. Like,
yeah.
you're like, if it says 26, but then you're in the store, it's 24, like, you don't consciously register that. But like, that stuff adds up. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you're like, oh, okay, like either way, it's like $1, $2 more, right? But like I did not go to grocery stores. I just order my food all the time. And now I canceled my Instacart. I'm walking to Costco with my beach cart. So things like that make a difference because I'm feeling it now with like my finances for sure.
Yeah.
It adds up for sure. So plus it's a nice way of like getting out of the house, especially us that we work from home.
I'm such a cave gremlin when it comes to leaving the house. Like, oh my God, it
Literally.
gets bad.
Literally.
But
Same.
something that I'm curious your thoughts are, because I've been like thinking about it a lot lately,
Mhm.
is like the FOMO of being in your 20s and just kind of it feels like we're stuck in between these like different worlds where
Mhm.
on one hand we're not like we're still trying to be young and like not die inside because we have plenty of time for that when we like get married and have kids and all that or whatever else the hell adults do. But on the other, like we do need to like actually get our shit together. So
Yep.
like one of the things I'm like thinking about lately that's like I've been and I think it's especially because my time has been like non-existent the past month with just the move and everything.
Mhm.
I've been feeling guilty about the fact that I haven't been able to like say see friends or go out or meet new people the way that historically I've been able to do. Where like I feel like on one hand, like you think about your parents when they had kids and stuff, like when I don't know, like maybe everyone's different, but like at least when I was young and just most of my like childhood, my
Mhm.
parents like had their friends, but they weren't like going out and being social because like they had responsibilities. Like you're an adult. That's one of the things you have to take care of. And kind of just like how we can't go out as much now being adults as like say when in college because of those responsibilities.
Mhm.
I'm still trying to find that happy medium right now where in one hand you have the FOMO because in college and all that stuff, like so much time was around social activities where it's like always like parties and you're living with your friends. So you're
Right.
just interacting with those friend groups and able to kind of keep them,
Closer.
yeah, closer a lot easier. But like just being in like your mid 20s and now it's different where you have your stuff you have to take care of. So it's not like a hey, like you want to see these people, but also it's like I gotta do my stuff. But then you're like, it's I feel like there is a bit of that just weird negative thoughts that a lot of people experience around like you have certain
Mhm.
friends who you're growing away from. Some people move away. Others you only have a chance to see like once a month. And then it's like, hey, like even if I get to see these people, I'm thinking about the fact that I haven't gotten a chance to like see these other people. And I feel like everyone's expectations are also in like a weird flux too, where it's like, let's just say when you're an adult and you have a family and kids,
Mhm.
everyone's parents. So it's like, if you're just like, hey, the kids, everyone's like, I get it. When
Right.
everyone's like at different maturity levels in their 20 and have like different expectations and areas of focus, it's not just like a thing of in your head of like, hey, your own thoughts. It's also just like different people have different expectations for you too. And it just like
Yeah.
adds to the messiness.
Yeah. I think it's complex, right? Like it's very complicated, but I try my best to at least have like one social event a month, at
Mhm.
least, because sometimes I feel like I've just become a worker lately. Like my life is work and that's it. Work
Mhm.
and home.
That's part
And
of what I've been thinking about this. Yeah.
yeah, and like when I was in college, I was not a home person. I was never home, never. I was always outside, always doing social stuff and everything. Um, I graduated in 2017, so that's a long time. And I've been in this process of realizing that the way I socialize now is totally different to how I socialized back in the day. And it's also weird because I came from a college town, right? Tallahassee is a college town. They're all students. They're all kind of in the same stage of life that everyone else is. They're going to school. Now some of us work from home, some of us go to an office. They like my friends here, they all have different jobs and some of them even have children. I don't mind going out with them and their children, but they might have to be home at a certain time, and they're just like in different stages of life compared to me, right? And I feel like sometimes I'm so comfortable at home because I'm always kind of tired, so I just want to be my couch or like cooking at home or doing home stuff, but I need to force myself to also go out and do other things, like have a social life because you also end up, going a little crazy when you're like just with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, like
I
you
I have to mention that after you finish your train of thought. Yeah.
yeah, like you end up being like, I don't know, like I feel like at some point I tell my boyfriend sometimes I'm like, you're not gonna hang out with your friends, like I think you need some testosterone around you or something, because
No,
it is
literally. Yeah.
true. It is true. Or like we girls, we need to like, I don't know, do girl stuff,
Yeah,
but
you need to complain about your boyfriends. That's part of like
exactly.
I heard a
Exactly.
funny joke. Who was the comedian? It was shoot, it was Tom Segura's wife, Christina Pazinski. She has this joke where she's like, I hate people who say that their boyfriend or husband's their best friends. I'm like, I was like, ugh. You know who's your best friend? The person that you talk shit about to with your like you talk shit about your husband with, like that's your best friends. Like you
That's
kind of need
funny.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's so important. So sometimes I might not feel like going out, but I'm still going to do it because I feel like I need to have a balance, like I can't just
Mhm.
be home all the time. Or even like I feel like I've gotten away from thinking of things or doing things that I actually like. So this month, I'm actually going to start volunteering for the shelter, the animal shelter in
Oh,
Miami,
nice.
in North Miami. So I'm really excited about that because I can't just be a working person, you know? I need to be,
Yeah.
I don't know, Ramu outside of work. So, and it's hard because we work from home. That is the problem, you know? We don't leave to go to an office. We're not forced to go to an office
That's
to
the
talk to
most dangerous
people.
thing is when your home's also your work environment. It's very hard
Exactly.
to like get that mental separation.
Exactly. Exactly. So that is the problem because someone might ping me at 8 or something, and I might look at that message and do something about it at 8 because I'm home,
Mhm.
you know? So I think it's a balance. Like, for example, you just said that you are planning on doing 2 date nights a month with Montana, right? You should
Mhm.
definitely be like, I'm gonna do something social once a month at least with someone else, you know? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
she can come with, but like still do something like social because if not, you even become like a I don't know, like a socially awkward person. Like
Mhm.
sometimes I literally like I only have jokes with my boyfriend and I feel like he's the only one that's gonna understand my jokes, you know, because I don't know if I'm funny outside of this, you know?
No, literally, I'm already weird enough. I can literally tell when I haven't been around other people enough where I'm like, oh, I already know I'm a bit like on a different beat. Like I don't
Yeah,
need anything else that like works against my favor of that. But
literally.
no, yeah, you notice like just not being around social environments as much. You're just like, I just feel weird. I've been talking to people through Zoom screens who aren't like in my immediate vicinity.
Yeah, and you know, like even right now, the world is just so different when it comes to socializing because, for example, I'm in like my late 20s now. You are in your mid 20s. That must be awesome, you know? But like people, I don't know how adults meet people nowadays, you know, because like a lot of people are meeting through like applications and stuff like that. I'm not very used to that, you know, like I'm more of like a, I don't know, meet someone in person type of thing and have a conversation. But I feel like people are more like in their own bubble now. Like it's not as
Yeah.
easy to reach out to people in person now.
Yeah, because like on that one of the big things I personally think, like my theories it's attributed to is
Mm.
there was almost these like three phases, at least in recent memory, around socialization. There was pre-internet, where your culture and who you were and your interests and everything was affected by your literal like geographic location, where it's like if you're living in Austin, Texas, all you have to absorb is other people in Austin, Texas. But then
Mhm.
the internet came along, and the way that like the internet used to be structured was like when you went on like YouTube and stuff, everyone kind of had the common culture of whatever the big thing was. It was a way for stuff to go viral. Like if something went viral, like let's just say, I don't know, some like Taylor Swift's an example of something that's going viral now that still kind of holds to old school rules, but like
Mhm.
just something that is just gets a lot of popularity, everyone would see. But the way that they're doing all these like personalized feeds and like the psychology behind it now is where at least with the beginning of the internet or where it was a couple years ago, you could still share the common culture by seeing what the most popular things were, and we were all
Mhm.
exposed to that. Now everything like that you see is like just based off of your like data and what they think you want to see. So you just
Mhm.
get pushed more and more into these silos, and like everyone's that's like one of the weirdest social things I think they'll be talking about for a long time. And maybe it's like here to stay. Hopefully it's different because I think it's like a pretty bad thing is
Mhm.
where people are getting individualized based off of technology and the way the internet works now. And it's getting harder and harder for us to communicate outside of our silos just because we're getting pushed deeper and deeper in a bunch of different directions. And there's not really any big common thing for us to like meld around.
Yeah, that goes so deep because it is true. Yeah, like
Mhm.
we're not exposing ourselves to like different perspectives now. We're just seeing things that they think we like, and we
Yeah.
probably do, but you know, I don't know. Like we're losing that culture of meeting different people. and making it easier to, I don't know, get to know other people that are different to us too.
Yeah. Like
So
things are also just getting very weird and what's a good word? Just standoffish, where there's like I think I feel like there's like two categories in the world right now. There's a
mhm,
lot of messed up stuff going on,
mhm,
and there's the messed up stuff where it's like we do need to get angry about, and it's like, hey, like this isn't good that this keeps going. And then there's the messed up stuff that you look at and like it's like, okay, people are over exaggerating. Like you don't have
yeah,
enough worries in your life if this is what you're focusing on. The problem is as a collective, just society, no one know, like we know there's these two groups, but no one
mhm.
knows what's in one group and what's in the other, and we can't come to a consensus on it. So
It's so
like,
divided. Everything's so
yeah,
divided nowadays.
it's like, yeah, it's like there is like a lot of weird stuff going on. And if you just bring it up to people, they're like, yeah, like I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. But it's
Mhm.
also it's like no one knows what the answer is. And also like everyone's just getting angry about like all these weird little things. And it's really hard to know it's like what's important and what's not. Like where's the justification and like where is it just like and maybe we just need some sleep and to focus on something else.
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like it gets harder for people to be okay with having friends that have different views, you know? Like right
Uh-huh.
now, if like your friend doesn't have the same view as you, like that's it, you're canceled, you know? And that is so sad because like I feel like, for example, when I moved to the US and I came here for college, I was meeting people from so many different places and so many different backgrounds that I learned so much to see other people's perspectives, you know? And
Mhm.
that's something that we're definitely losing. And I also feel like COVID has a big thing too on like socialization right now, you know, like the
That made people
before
weird.
COVID and the after COVID.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
both news and socialization got really weird and everyone got a lot more skeptical of each other. I
mhm,
think the whole like canceling era that kind of kicked things off, but like
mhm,
I think the COVID stuff just made everyone a lot more because like no one knows what to believe. Like even with news and stuff, I was mentioning to you before the show, like one of my topics is like I'm thinking of potentially doing like news fasting, just like deleting the news apps from my phone. All I
mhm,
really follow that's just one news source is the Wall Street Journal. Like I don't like to mess around with the whole like Fox News, CNN type thing, or just
mhm.
like quote unquote like the mainstream, just because like across the board, you can just tell with like the headline words they're using and like the verbiage and even the stories. I'm like, you guys are doing I don't care like what party. You guys are doing conclusion first, and then you're
Mhm.
trying to like almost like go on this Easter egg hunt around like trying to find facts that supports your claim
Oh my
because
God, yes.
yeah.
I
And
can't do that.
like even with the Wall Street Journal, like I've historically done that one just because it keeps me kind of on the pulse of business. And they they have their biases, but they're generally one of the better ones. But even
Mhm.
lately, I've just been like thinking about how every time I like open the app just to check what's like going on in the world, I'm like, oh my God, I just close this just feeling terrible because everything is catastrophized
Mhm.
and like all the headlines and information just makes you think that like we're all screwed, the sky is falling, and like everything is your fault. Like it's also been like playing into this negative attention gets more interaction and positive
Yes.
attention.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of like, I don't, and it's annoying too because there are just articles I'll look at and I'm like, I know enough about this to know that this isn't the case. And the way that you're like phrasing this is like just meant to get a reaction out of people, which from the ethical perspective, it's like, I'm not going to judge you as a single source because you're in the media industry.
Mhm.
Like you have to compete and it's like your kind of choices right now of like the legacy media is do these dirty things or die, but like I that doesn't mean I don't judge the whole just meta of it all, and I'm just like we need to kind of find a way around this. So I don't know, it's hard. I've been thinking about potentially just deleting the app on my phone and maybe just checking it once a week for stories, but that's the hard thing is I don't want to like completely cut myself off because it's like I don't know what's going on. Like there's a lot of
Right.
stuff going on right now. Like we might have got confirmation the other week that like aliens are real. Did you see that? They're
Yes.
finally posting that in like the mainstream stuff where it's just like these like congressional hearings. It's just like insiders who worked on these programs said this is definitely like the truth under like testimony and stuff. And it just lines up with so many other sources we've been hearing. And like a lot of just these pieces are like fitting together. So I'm like, I want to know about the aliens. Like, I need to know if like,
Are they coming here?
yeah, I'm like interest rates might
Coming
increase again, or they just increase. Like, there's a couple different stories
that you
where I'm like following. Like, there's like shit going down in Israel right now. Like, there's some. We still have the Ukrainian war. Like, there's these geopolitical events where we do kind of need to like at least be slightly aware of, because things could change in a flash and that would affect our lives. But it's just annoying because it feels like it's a bit of this waiting game where
Mhm.
in the meantime, like I just know something, like I can tell I'm being like fed this like malware in these
Right.
news stories that like feels propaganda-y. And it's like I'm
Mhm.
aware of it, but it still affects your psychology, even if you're conscious of it. But it's just
100%.
like I can't just be living in a box.
The problem
So
is like I feel like they're telling you how to feel about the news, you know, like
yeah, the
just give
news
you
used
the
to
news.
be, no, literally, like the news, like just across the board, they've been talking about how trust in institutions has been like deteriorating rapidly since I think it was like the 70s or 80s. At least back in the day, like we're humans, we're gonna have our spin. It's not perfect, but at least when it came to reporting, there was this
Mhm.
reporting like ethos of, hey, we're trying our best to go, here's the facts, even though there's a lot of perspective and just reality. Let the
Mhm.
reader come to their own conclusion. It's
Exactly.
completely reversed now, where it's like, here's what how you should feel, then it's
Mhm.
here's the conclusion, and then it's like here's some facts, and you're like, these facts aren't even like
Yeah,
100% lined up with the conclusion that you told me.
exactly. Yeah. It's very frustrating. I feel like I felt more effective like mentally when COVID happened because they were
Mhm.
like, "Oh, it was made in a lab." No, it was not made in a lab. Oh, this is like like a bioweapon and all this stuff, you know? And that's when you like start to see how sometimes people are like, "Oh, the news doesn't matter," or "I don't watch the news," but it does affect you, you know, the way you think about things, or like you start feeling like you can't trust what you're reading anymore because it's so biased. People are telling you what to believe. So it just gets overwhelming, to be honest. And then it
Yeah,
divides us more.
and then yeah, here we are, socially awkward in public, not
Right.
knowing what
Literally,
well,
literally.
that's why I'm like no comment on the Barbie movie, because I'm like, I'm not
You're
even gonna
scared
touch
of
that. Want to know
exactly.
why? Because I can already think of 5 labels and stereotypes that would throw on me if I say anything negative about that, regardless of the fact that my like opinions on it are nuanced. It's like, it's not worth playing those kinds of games. It's very interesting.
You know, literally, that's like why people are like socially awkward right now.
Mhm.
It's because we cannot voice our opinion without people feeling like personally attacked, I feel. Because like honestly, like if you told me you don't like Barbie, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I hate Zach because he doesn't
Yeah.
like Barbie. Like, you know, you like I'm gonna respect your opinion. You don't like Barbie because of this, this, and that. Okay, great. I liked Barbie, you know, and that's okay too, you know, but
Mhm.
people are taking things too personal, and that makes us more socially awkward because as humans we always try to get people to like us.
Yeah. And it's like we're
So,
supposed, like, just part of the way like the world just like being human works is like we're supposed to learn from each other. Or it's like, yeah,
mhm.
in the moment it doesn't need to be like, hey, I need to completely agree with everything you say and
Right,
vice versa. It's like, hey, so and so said something interesting where I didn't think, like, I don't agree with them on it, but it got me starting to think about it. And then you walk away from that conversation being a little bit more like, hey, you now are a little bit more reinforced in your opinions, or maybe go, no, they had a point there on this thing.
right,
Like, and you shift your opinion. Like, we're not supposed, if we were the same person like now as we are in 20 years, like that's a huge problem. Like, imagine
right.
just being your having like all the same thoughts and opinions of your 15-year-old self. Like, that doesn't mean when you're 15 you were a liar or you're a bad person or any of these things. Like,
Right.
but like you see these arguments in social media where it's like, so and so said this 10 years ago and they're a bad person
Mhm.
because I'm like, but who are they now? How do they feel now? Like, where were they then?
Exactly.
And all of it.
Exactly.
That was like one of the things that kind of scared me about starting a podcast is I was worried about just like, because I feel like I changed my opinion. It's like I make mistakes. Like I have some like wild hot takes here, and I'm like, eh. But then some of my other wild hot takes, I'm like, later I'm like, oh, I'm actually onto something here. I'm like doubling down on it. But I was kind of worried about the whole having this record out there, but it did start to get me thinking. Honestly, I feel like it's made me a better person just having to come to terms of us doing this podcast, being like, hey,
Mm.
I might say some things that I don't agree with in the future, but by starting to look at reality in this like journey that's life from the perspective of like I'm always trying to learn and improve, and I might say go 2 steps forward, 1 step back, like
Mm-hmm.
just the pursuit of trying to be better, learn more, become wiser. Like that's what this is all about. Like it's not. It's what's the saying? I forget who said it, but it's like our ideas die, so we don't have to. And like kind of part of the process of life, just like throwing all of the shit it does at you, is
Mm-hmm.
seeing like what ideas and thoughts aren't worth holding on to when like
Yeah.
just hit with the hard realities in life, but also which ones are the ones like fighting for, and like which ones are the ones dying for. Like those are the really important ideas and questions. But like yeah, like just even with this podcast, like we're kind of talking about how people are afraid to speak. I've
Mm-hmm.
noticed it's made me more confident being able to talk publicly and just not be able to speak without having something rehearsed, because
Mm-hmm.
this has gotten us like better at being able to talk on our toes
Yeah.
without like stepping on a landmine. So like that's been pretty cool.
Yeah. We're always developing. Like we're not the same as yesterday, basically. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I think that's like the important part of understanding that, yesterday you thought this was right, tomorrow, who knows, you might go through something and it might change your opinion, and it's okay. And I always said it, right? Like whenever we get the hate from the internet, that's when we made it.
Uh-huh. I got my first hate message.
I
Like
know.
remember that? Like that was like 3 weeks ago. I need to tell that story. I like woke up and I don't normally check. I'll normally keep an eye on LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and like our TikTok and Instagram stuff. I
Mhm.
leave to Megan, my sister, and our podcast manager in Ramu, because like they work together on it. But I woke up and I saw this like one comment on like it was like our TikTok or Instagram, and it was just like he doesn't even know what he's talking about. And my first thought was, shit, did I finally get called out on one of the times I talked out my ass? And I like was all worried because like I don't check all the clips before we put them in the pipeline. And I like watched the clip and I'm like, oh no, I was definitely right on this one. Like I doubled down on it, but
It's just so easy to say something like you don't know what you're talking about, but then you don't even give us a why are you saying that? Like I
yeah,
didn't even understand what this person was disagreeing on.
no,
So
but like it's funny because everyone talks about the internet hate thing,
mm,
and like if we ever get actually big, that's going to be a challenge in of itself. But there was something kind of empowering of the baby steps of that moment where it's like, hey, I got my first like negative comments. Like I'm still alive. I didn't
right.
get canceled or fired. Like everything's okay. It just makes you kind of like the confidence we build talking publicly do that, like doing this. It
Mm-hmm.
just makes you feel like, oh, like, hey, like things aren't as catastrophized as the media and all the information and what's being communicated to us is
Mm-hmm.
like leading us to believe. Because it's like, why? Like people want to know, it's like, why is Gen Z so anxious and depressed and like scared to live their lives? It's because like everything we've been getting fed since at least college is like, if you do one wrong step, like you're gonna ruin your life and have like this angry mob at you. It's like if you want to know what's a really quick way of just like what's a word, just deflating an entire generation,
Mm-hmm.
it's like teaching them like don't act, like don't step out of line, don't take risks, because like you'll be like knocked down. But like if you start to take those risks, you're like, hey, like there's kind of like a lot of like potential and opportunity out there. Like who knows where this podcast will go in a year or something. It's like I've talked about this with my tech journey. Once I like left finance and went to tech, it's like oh shit, if I can do that, I can do other stuff that are easier. And
Exactly.
it's like a lot of it's just building that confidence.
I feel like even if we weren't able to make this podcast big, it still shows like commitment, you
Mhm.
know?
It's
Like
making us
we
better people too. Yeah.
exactly like we've made this, you know, basically I forgot how you say that. Compromiso. We've compromised, right, to do this. And we haven't stopped doing it since we started it, you know? So that is a really big thing that a lot of people don't have. Like keeping up with this, you know, and everything, all the tasks that we have to do behind the scene and everything is like a good skill to have. So even if we don't make it or anything, like it's a good thing, you know, like a good experience to have for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Something on that was I was thinking about this week was like I was morale was so bad yesterday to kind of like circle back around to the whole like, hey, we have to go out and be social topic. I've been very like feast or famine with that. It feels like the past year where I've been very famine with it lately, just with not having any time. And like I've been just noticing it's been making me like weird and on edge. And I'm almost like I'm worried in a way about just like bleeding into my social interactions a
Mhm.
bit, which is like kind of what made me like take stock of it and be like, okay, like make things will be okay. I need to do like obviously I have to sacrifice and like there's going to be some pain to get my commitments done, but also it's like I need to make sure I get my sleep. I can't just be working on the apartment and work all the time. Like get out, I need to see friends even if it feels that's like one of the tricky things of it is like you feel like you're not holding up to your responsibilities by like doing quote
Mhm.
unquote fun stuff, but you forget sometimes that you have to give yourself that break just so you can like recharge and be more effective. But like the point I was getting at that started me on this was yesterday. I was just super just exhausted, frustrated, had like 1,000 things on my mind. And there were some like moments I'm like, I just need to like take stuff on my like off my plate. And I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, I have to do the podcast tomorrow too. I'm in such a shitty mood. I'm worried about just like that bleeding into it and not being able to quote unquote be on for the podcast. And I got, I was able to like catch a wind of my work, get over a mental roadblock I was dealing with yesterday. I got 10 hours of sleep last night. I passed out super early and I was feeling like a lot better and more confident today. So, my
Mhm.
point being with all this is when you do commit yourself to things, realize that even if in the moment you're going to have your like doubts and emotions and stuff,
Mhm.
take a bigger sample size than one day before you make decisions on your long-term commitments, because where I can get bad at that is I'm very good at rationalizing and making things like finding very good logic to things in my head. So let's like say yesterday when I was just exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, had 1,000 things to do and not enough time, it was like there was a lot of thoughts like I just need to cut stuff off my plate, like looking for immediate solutions, and just like I was just like in full kind of like panic mode. But
Mhm.
what I realized like this morning after I was just feeling better and I was able to just take some baby steps on what I need to do yesterday
Mhm.
is just moving the ball forward even just a little bit. That made me feel more confident. I'm like, okay, even though I'm not as far today as I wish I was,
Mhm.
at least I'm now a couple steps further along and just getting like a good night's sleep. I think it was Tim Ferriss has a line, something I'm butchering it and I'm paraphrasing and adding my own twist probably, but something to do is like most of the time your problem isn't what you think the problem is. It really just comes down to like needing to eat healthy food and get some sleep. Like try that first before you go rearranging your whole life.
Mhm.
And that was kind of like what I went through like this morning where I'm like, okay, move forward a little bit. I got some sleep. Hey, do I still have a lot of stuff I need to get done? Is it still things going to like, is things still going to be like tight and there's going to be some like pain I'll have to feel, yes. But you know what? At least I'm in like a sound mind right now. I know that my like emotions aren't going to bleed into just how I project into the world. And it's like things will be okay. We'll take it one day at a time.
So when you are setting up whatever you have to do for the day, the week, like how do you approach that? Do you make a list of things? Okay, today I minimum I have to do this before I finish my day. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I feel like I have different tiers of that. And it all depends on kind of like what level of emergency we're at.
Mhm.
I would say Zach, which has a lot of breathing room, I'm a lot more organized and I'm more principled and just like having my list, having all my notes in OneNote, making sure my desk area is clear and all that. But like,
Mhm.
say for example, like Zach right now, I have some like I've got stuff I need to do before I leave for vacation because I don't want to have to touch anything. I won't give myself that mental break. So
Mhm.
it's like I'm I'm kind of thinking of it in terms of just necessities where it's like, hey, are there some other things that I wish I could be doing now in terms of just making sure I'm set up, having my like lists and stuff in order? Yes.
Mhm.
Are those things important? And in the long run, they lead to being more long term effective and having more stable energy? Yes. But like, what is the reality I'm dealing with now?
Right.
So, like, for now, like, it's very much on my just white piece of paper. I'll write down what do I absolutely need to do today and make sure I knock it out. And it's just like going tunnel vision. So yeah, it kind of depends on the situation. And I think that's like an interesting lesson I've learned is I don't like not being prepared and it stresses me out when I feel like I'm not
100.
able to be. But I think Jeff called it something of like living in the chaos of like being a product manager, where like there's going to be these times where it's like, look, there's going to be some chaos and
Mhm.
you're not going to be able to order things the way you are. And like you just got to like get stuff done. But being able to quote unquote like dance in the chaos, I
Mhm.
think that's one of those important job skills where it's like, even right now, like I was dancing in the chaos, I think a bit 2 months ago was the last time we were like doing stage and stuff and things were pretty bad. I'm definitely in that now, but every time I kind of have to like do that dance, I'm learning a little bit more and I'm a little bit more prepared for next time. And I think it's making me a better person too, where it's like, don't get me wrong, it still like sucks right now and I wish I didn't have to deal with it. But I don't know. I'm glad I'm having the opportunities and I'm dealing with this stuff now while the
Right.
stakes are where they are versus say having to learn these lessons for the first time when like you're a parent with a kid and now it's like not just like keeping myself alive and work. It's like,
Right.
oh shit, there's other human beings involved here who I'm responsible for.
I think that also comes with the balance, right? Like us talking about go out with your friends, spend some quality time with your girlfriend, cook some good meals, go to sleep. That is definitely part of the balance. And this is always, as you said, like a process of making things better. Maybe tomorrow you like next week you'll see me and I'm like losing all my shit right now and I'm like literally going crazy. I told you already, I've had a really like chaotic week, but I'm like so positive right now. I don't know what's happening.
No, that was like that's what I'm like talking about. Like me yesterday versus today is a lot better. I'm just
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
But
So funny.
something that I've started to do is telling myself it's not that serious. Like it's not that serious, Like for example, I'll get my crucial things done and I've been so productive in that sense of like, oh, tomorrow I have this meeting and I have to have this material by this time for my meeting. Okay, I'm going to work on this right now, And I'm going to leave everything aside. I didn't get time to, I don't know, take care of this other thing. It's okay. I have tomorrow to take care of it. I'll wake
Mhm.
up early tomorrow with a fresh mind because sometimes even I don't know about you, but when I'm overwhelmed, everything goes wrong. Like
Oh yeah.
I lose details, I get in a bad mood, I'm like stressed out about time. I'm like, oh, there's not enough time. And like I can't control time. I can't make like if this thing takes me 3 hours, it takes me 3 hours and I did my best. And whatever I didn't complete, it is what it is. I'll leave it for tomorrow because I'll do a better job tomorrow. Like being realistic, there's gonna be times where you have to stay up until like 10 working or whatever when you have a lot of deadlines. But sometimes you do also have to set your boundaries, because if you're not happy with, like, for example, like you at home, that you had so many boxes, you had to organize so many things, maybe that's your priority as a person, Zach, outside of Oracle, you know? So my motto has been, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. I'm gonna get it done, you know?
I know the perfect quote to end this podcast on, and Layla, our team's intern,
Mhm.
she's the one who told me about it. I'm trying to get my Chrome open because I want to see if I can find it. Hopefully I can do this super quick.
Do you
Is there
cook?
anything you can fill the air with like two
No, I
seconds?
wanted to ask you, like, do you cook, or who does the cooking in your house?
Montana and I both do the cooking. She's a better cook and does more, but like I'll make meals for us, or like we'll like cook together. A lot of my cooking is mostly meal prep though,
Okay.
but yeah, like I really hope I can find it. Okay, I'm gonna give this like a solid 3 more seconds. I wish there was a way to yeah, I'm not gonna find it. I want to put the quote in
Well,
the description of the podcast. Like people take a look at that one, but it's it's a good one, and like it literally it really like hit a chord. Layla, it was from this book that Layla read and she recommended to me. And like basically like the gist of it is like you're being unfair to yourself when you're being so hard on yourself while expecting yourself to be kind and like forgiving and understanding of other people, where it's like I feel like we all want to try to like be a good person, be as considerate of others and within reason as possible. But like it starts, you have to give that same attitude towards like people outside of you as yourself. Otherwise, like the pyramid, you're starting the foundation of the pyramid all wrong. And it's like it's going to leak out in ways that you don't intend and you don't want to do. The quote summarizes it really well, so I'll find that for the description. But it just like really got me like thinking about this, because like I feel like if there's anything that
Mhm.
just like leads me to be like, ugh, it's just getting myself in these like mental spirals, getting in a bad mood, and then like at the end of the day, like just kind of hoping, like I hope if I was like in a bad mood and if anyone like noticed it, they
Mhm.
didn't take it like personally, kind of thing, and
Yeah,
like think it was about them.
exactly. No, I feel you. I think we're more critical of ourselves than other people outside. So that's what we struggle with, and not being
Yeah.
kind to ourselves.
It's also, it's like we work in tech and we're in our 20s. Like we're both like product managers at like one of the best companies in the world. Like we're very high performing people. Of course, by nature, we're going to be super self-critical. I
Yep.
think part of the process of like getting more mature and just more wise as we get older is like realizing like, hey, like you're part of the puzzle too. And you, like I
Hmm.
just said, it's like it starts with yourself. You need to have that good foundation. You can't just go around like treating yourself
Hmm.
like biased when you want to like treat other people better than you do to yourself.
Preach, preach. Thank you
So
for
that's,
attending our therapy.
yeah, that's our this week's episode of Therapy Talk with Ramu and Zach.
Technically managing therapy session.
Yeah. Honestly, the more we, I feel like the title of the podcast is really good for this. Like we are like it really is about us like just trying to technically manage like at all of
Exactly.
this.
Honestly, if we have any like people with experience watching this podcast, please like give us tips. You know, we're here talking, but like we're
I
like
know.
super open to like learn tips from like people that have been struggling with this for a long time. So
Get in the comments like if you want to be on the podcast and you have an interesting story, reach out. We had our first episode with
yes.
Denise, who's on Ramu's team last week. If you haven't checked it out,
It's
highly
really
recommend
good.
taking a look at it. It's really good. It hasn't gotten the views I want it to. I don't think
Mhm.
it's the episode. I think it's just people kind of either catch it or don't. But
Yep.
go give that episode some love. Hear about Denise's story because it's really good. And yeah, looking forward to having more guests on in the future. But
Yep.
yeah, that was technically managing. See you all soon.
Thank you.